District. This is a special board meeting, primarily for the purpose of having our annual budget hearing prior to voting on approval or disapproval of accepting next year's budget. And it is Monday, November 29th, and I do apologize. None of us recognized the typo. We had scheduled at the last meeting for this meeting to begin at 6:30. But it still says call to order at 5:30, so my apologies to those that have been out there waiting since 5:30. I didn't see it until I was leaving work today, and was like, whoa. So, but we're here now, so we'll go ahead and get started. Call this to order. Item 2 will be roll call.
Sherry Ringham present.
Troy Stinson present.
Neil Erickson present.
John Martin present.
And
Stacy Williams doing for me.
are we gonna call her? We'll try to get Stacy on the phone here, but we do have a quorum that is 4. So while Neil's doing that, we'll go ahead and
Hi, did you want to join the board meeting? You're on speaker. And Neil Erickson present. Your turn.
Stacy Popovich present.
There we go.
all right, we got you. Hello.
Hi.
All right. We are on item 3 now, President's welcome and remarks. Thank you all for showing up. We are gonna have an amendment to the agenda tonight. We will have an executive session, but we're gonna follow after the budget hearing with that. So that we can go ahead, and I'm assuming everybody's here for the budget hearing, so we'll hold that first. Anybody wanna lead us in the pledge of allegiance? Dan?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Daniel.
I almost lapsed into the rotary pledge.
Okay. Now we are on to item 4, which would be approval of agenda. We are gonna need to make an executive session. That executive session will be for purposes of personnel matters
And contracts.
and contracts. And I can't remember the statute right now off the top of my head. Pertaining to new hires contracts and Paintbrush Hills.
Yeah, and we've got another contract as well to discuss.
All right. So with that,
Maybe discussing the terms of the contract, which is appropriate for executive session.
right. So with that, I'll motion we approve agenda with those changes to it.
I'll second it.
Okay. Motion by me, second by John. Any further discussion on it? All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, motion carries. All right, now we'll move to item 5 is the 2022 budget hearing. This is for next year's budget. And I'll open it up to the public for any questions, concerns, comments. If you could, just stand up, state who you are, and what you got.
My name is Brent Nizer, live at 5860 Canyon Drive in Greenwood Village. And with me is Carl Lundquist, and Carl, if you'd like to state your.
Yeah, my name is Carl Lundquist. I'm a home builder and have worked exclusively here for 13 years over in Falcon Vista. And I'm here tonight with Mr. Nizer, and I spoke 90-some days ago to Mr. Vendelow. I've been trying to reach out to him, and his phone system doesn't have a way to leave a message. So I accompanied Mr. Nizer here tonight to see if we could get a meeting or get on your agenda to speak about the situation that we dealt with.
Yeah. So I'll give a little background, and this relates to fiscal issues, to budgetary items. So first of all, I want to, as a former city commissioner, I want to thank all of you for your public service, and Attorney Vandelope for you serving in the state legislature. Those are great sacrifices. So a very short statement. In this year, we were required to work on and pay $324 for corrections to existing Woodman Hills infrastructure on Watusi Road near where we are now. This requirement is inconsistent with our previous interactions with Woodman Hills Metro District through a history of 12 years of cooperatively working with you in the construction of 22 rental units in Falcon. We're seeking monetary reimbursement for these charges. I have detailed and I have handouts for you and your staff of the 7 communications that we've had with the board, including our public appearance tonight. And our request is we would like to meet with you or your staff to discuss this issue in detail. And we began this dialogue in late August. And I do have handouts.
Let me, if I may, begin by, if there's a problem with our phone, my apologies. Because it works, it was used today, it's used constantly. So anyway, I'm sure it's frustrating to go through the not able to leave a message scenario, so I apologize, it's news to me.
I just retained your number that you called me from, and you and I had a conversation in late August, and I was under the assumption that I would hear back from you, and when I didn't, I just got back into my phone, and that number that you called me from, I've tried repeatedly to call that number, and it doesn't have a voicemail that I can leave a message to.
Okay, if you give me the number, I'll get to the bottom of it, because that's not okay.
Yeah, I have it back in my office.
That would be great.
Okay.
Again, my apologies, unrelated to the merits of whatever we want to talk about, just common courtesy.
Approach the chair.
Yeah.
Never want to move too quickly when you approach the chair. So I want to make sure I have copies for everybody, including Attorney Benton.
Thank you.
And I'll give another one to staff. Is it Wally?
Carter, I'm the comptroller.
Okay, well, whoever. And much of what you see here has been sent via email. And the thing that's not represented are the photos of the infrastructure intervention that we were required to perform by Woodman Hills official Danny Everett. And Danny not only supervised it, he inspected it numerous times. Is that correct, Mr. Moore?
Yeah, and we were, is Danny here tonight?
Danny doesn't work here anymore.
Okay.
He hasn't worked here.
A year?
A year.
Dan Lundquist, is that correct?
My name's Carl Lundquist.
Carl.
Well, on this particular situation, he was the representative for Woodman Hills and had been through all the years that we were over there. And he was the one that we took our directions from.
And this intervention occurred on a public street. And
Can I ask a question on this, Troy?
Go ahead.
So, my question is, did you perform maintenance on the main line? Or did you perform maintenance after the tap going to the residence?
No. I had a brief discussion with Mr. Bendel, and he was under the impression that this work took place on Mr. Niser's property. It didn't. In that sanitary sewer system and water system, it all comes together in that cul-de-sac at the end of Watusi. And there's about 70 feet, roughly 70 feet to 75 feet from the main
Okay.
of leads in your infrastructure that come into 6505 and 6507 Watusi. And those leads penetrate through the property line, and we grab those leads and finish our building. We've done umpteen of them in there. And on this particular one, those lines collapsed and were broken out in your street, or out in the street, and that was determined when Danny inspected it, this Mr. Everett inspected it. He wasn't happy with what our connection. And then he said, stop, and he made us camera the lines. We cambered the lines, and we couldn't determine what was going on. And we stopped and said, we've got to have a plan here. And he said, the plan is, you've got to repair this. And so we had, and I'll stop there because the paperwork and all the photos go from there, but we didn't do any maintenance at all. We corrected, removed, and replaced these lines from the main. We tapped, he wanted the 70-some feet of pipe torn out He upgraded the pipe, he engineered it, and he made us tap the main lower than was originally tapped. It was, we did everything at his instruction. He told us that we were not gonna get sewer and water unless we fixed this.
And this is just highly unusual, because we work with you all. I have a spreadsheet of the tap fees we've paid, and we just had a great relationship, and we've added
But the-
daily customers to your inventory of, ratepayers.
And most of what I speak on, I apologize, when you said the word maintenance, I just wanted to get through that and clear that this was a major event, and the infrastructure was, according to Danny, installed incorrectly. It had nothing to do with us, and it wasn't installed right according to him, and he wanted everything lower. We had to put larger pipes in, but there wasn't any maintenance. We had to tear everything out to please him.
Understood.
Thank you.
My point is, Woodman Hills owns the main line. We own the main sewer line. Anything that is tapped off of that main sewer line going to a house belongs to the developer or the homeowner. Right now, if my main line broke in the middle of my driveway, I own that. Woodman Hills doesn't come out and fix that. They don't pay for that. They don't do any of that. And I think it's pretty clear in our information that states that. And I think that's where part of this back and forth has gone, that we thought it had been stated clearly that Woodman Hills, that's not part of our infrastructure that we own. That either belongs to the contractor or the homeowner.
Well, it can't be both. It can't be either or. There is no contractor, there is no developer, and it's not, you stated in your illustration, was your driveway, your main and your driveway. This was out in the middle of.
If it happened from the main, after my tap came off the main. So isn't that right? Woodman Hills owns the main. We don't own anything that comes off of the main.
Those are called laterals.
Pardon me?
Those are called laterals. Isn't there pictures that show?
I guess,
Yeah.
I've seen the pictures, and I've responded, and we even had the inspector, we have a new inspector. We had him look at the pictures, and I think his response was sent to you guys.
We have never.
No, we haven't
received
heard
a
it for
response.
90 days.
The only communication we've had, Chair Troy, or Chair Stinson, was your,
Just Troy's.
your email to us, I think on September 1st, asking for clarification, and we responded within 1 day. And that's attached.
Yeah, there was a forwarded email after that it looks like you guys didn't get.
We have received no communication.
The conversation that I had with Mr. Bendelow in late August, just for being
It
approximate.
would have been right after that. You
Yeah.
would have got that forwarded email from our inspector who looked at the pictures. We had discussed it. Everybody had seen the pictures and looked at it. We had presented it to our inspector, and he explained the situation about the laterals coming off of the main. And that we own the main line, but we don't own the laterals. Those are what you guys pay to tap into the main line, if I remember the conversation correct.
We don't pay to tap into the main line, we tap into the leads.
Still lateral. Yeah, you're just continuing the lateral to inside the home.
You can have laterals come off of laterals. That's not unusual.
Well, I just, I don't wanna go down that road.
I guess, yeah, I don't want to either, but I guess my main question would be, you say it's the first time we've ever had an incident like this. I would ask for, so you say that Danny had you guys lower them, even lower?
Yes.
Was that due to the break, or was that before the
Yeah.
break?
I can't be, I don't know what Danny's reasoning was for that. I just know that Danny said that the 75 feet of pipe, we'll use your word laterals, he said that's gotta be torn out, okay? And he wanted it upsized from 4 inches to 6 inches, and he wanted them lowered into the main. And that's what he wanted us to do, and he said, you have to do it, or you don't get sewer and water. And we did the work, and then we wanted to wait till we got to our certificate of occupancy, and we have a topographical view of everything that we went through, and then present it to you guys.
Now, I'm guessing that these two specific addresses are not the only two addresses in that cul-de-sac.
Just to give you a visual, the cul-de-sac isn't like a full cul-de-sac because with full houses. If you drove straight through the cul-de-sac, there's an easement there, and the cul-de-sac's not complete with residential units because there's a big void there. Mr. Niser's 2 units are off to the left-hand side there, but when you get into the cul-de-sac, there's a couple single-family houses on the right-hand side. I would say probably for the sake of a general conversation, there might be 4 to 5 units that would be in that arc of that circle.
Do they come off of that same main line?
I know that our two did, and I don't have any knowledge of the other 3 that I'm saying are there, because those are single-family homes that I wasn't involved in, and the builders was Black Oak, so he would know what came off there.
So I guess I'm trying to kind of weigh, are the rest of them coming off that main line lower
They would-
than what you guys had in these two?
I don't have that, I
Yes.
don't have it.
May I interject, please?
Go ahead.
Reason why it,
Probably saved me a lot of questioning.
the reason why it was lower, having to have a 6-inch line in there, because there was not enough fall. You have to have at least maintain a 2% minimum fall for flow. And it was not that to achieve that because the way the house was being built in the ground, from the ground up, so the elevations, if it was a little higher, the elevations would make a little bit of difference where the fall would not be a question, but it was. So that was probably one of the reasons why Danny wanted to go that, because you have to have some kind of anything that's less than 2% fall has to have a 6-inch service lateral. It's in our bylaws.
Who would have installed those?
This way before me.
Would Woodman Hills have installed those?
Our understanding from the HOA president, and the last 10, 12 years is that Woodman Hills provided inspection services, and that was the extent of Woodman Hills' involvement, that they signed off and inspected it. That's, and
Which we do.
that would just be a hearsay. That's just, when you're trying to problem solve and get things solved, and you have a meeting with people, you're trying to figure out who did what, and how do we.
So on top, following up with what you just said, actually, so we do provide inspection services, and we do have a spec sheet that's in our bylaws that these guys go by as far as lowering, rise, all that stuff that's required for flow and rate and everything, and the whole. And these guys are the experts on that. But the inspector comes out, if you call one of our inspectors out there to inspect it, they're gonna inspect it per our specs. And if it's wrong, they're gonna say, we're not gonna approve this until it's fixed.
I understand that.
And with that being, and I said, so I guess that would be my point here, is I think, one, we need to compare the work to the spec sheet. It's one thing to just have our inspectors say, no, those are lateral lines and they had to be fixed. But compare the work done to our spec sheet. And if it had to be fixed, I mean, it had to be fixed, or he's right, you wouldn't be able to get service. Because it's gotta be to the required specs for us to even allow it to, otherwise we would call, what do they call that now down at the county, questions, or to the construction project, to where the actual county inspector wouldn't approve it either, coming out. If our inspector said, no, it doesn't meet our specs, and it's coming into our sewer or our water. And so that's my big question there is, and that's why we sent it to our inspector and said, look at these pictures and this information. And his immediate response was, no, it wasn't to spec, had to be changed. And that's a lateral line, that's not our main.
So the position is that those laterals, that lateral, specific lateral that you're speaking to that came off the main, that installed improperly or properly, that is the liability of the person that taps into it.
Yes.
I'll let the man running the water show.
Yeah, by the constituents of our bylaws, yes.
So it's, a lateral is a private obligation. The district can set standards whereby the private lateral connects to the main. It has to meet those standards in order to connect to the main, but the expense of connecting to the main is the lateral's obligation.
But, that being said, I would be open to, if you can find something in the county that contradicts the way our specs line up with the county specs that would change that whole equation there, albeit bring it forward. You have,
And again, we never got anything from your inspector or team.
I
so
will see if
it's been.
I think this is part of my email problem with it not having.
Well, we'll follow up with the inspector, and
Yeah.
apologies for that.
Yeah.
We've been doing some changes as far as the community is concerned, and,
The only thing that I would add, the consensus of the excavating contractor, the project manager, and Danny Everett were that the laterals were installed properly, okay? And notwithstanding that you have, in the discussion, a ingredient here or a variable about the height of the home. The height of the home is set by Pikes Peak Regional Building. And if you go out and look at the site today and you rehash what we did and all the things that we talked about and all the options that we had, we feel that the height of the home is set exactly properly for the grades that go all the way down to the other side. So I get that all those things can be at the table when you're trying to problem solve, but I know that the consensus there when that all got opened up was that the laterals were installed improperly from the get-go. And,
Who put them in?
we don't know. We've gone back to the HOA president, is a gentleman named John Allen, and he owns some of the local improvement district bonds. He bought some of those bonds through the downturn and different things, so he was the one that was our reference point, because those bonds paid the contractor that did the work. The only thing that we heard verbally from him was that contractor was out of business, okay?
Is there any indication Woodman put that lateral in?
No. The only thing that the consensus of everybody there was that Woodman did the inspections, okay? But then the discussion, and I'm gobbling up your time, and I appreciate that. Then the discussion was on our part, okay, you need to find a contractor that did the work, and you need to produce his insurance carrier, because there's always completed operations and insurance there, and if those laterals, okay, were installed improperly, then that insurance company has to be sought out, because Woodman Hills did the inspection, okay, we don't know, that's just a verbal, they did inspect, we don't know what took place on that day, who saw what, but now when it got opened back up, Mr. Everett said these were installed improperly, and that's when we ran down that road to find the contractor, maybe pull the insurance back out, but then we wanted to get here to find out where we were at, and you've been so gracious to let us.
Do you have any idea on when they were installed?
The best that we can tell, it was a nightmare over there with a long history of, and it has a mile-high capital story to it and all that. We think 2002 to 2005, because there was that body of work done, and then it stalled, incomplete, money missing, finger pointing. Then the HOA went out and borrowed money with a bank, Stockman's Bank, to complete the infrastructure. Part of the mess here is when this was bought by this Mile High Capital, a lot of the infrastructure was done for single-family homes. Then he took the infrastructure, or took the plan to duplexes. So as different builders and people were working in there, you had this single-family home concept, the duplex concept laid over it, and there were issues that arose up where those two philosophies battled each other.
And I'm sorry I'm doing this from memory, I don't have all the pictures like nobody else does, but wasn't there damage to the laterals at some point? And wasn't it discussed that maybe there was new wiring or something that had gone through their cable, or
Well,
somebody had
there was
moved something through that area?
As it was all being studied and looked at, and then as you tear that out and look at it, there was this feeling that they collapsed close to the main, okay? Then there was this discussion that, hey, this is a mess. everything that was done here would never be done again with gas lines, electrical infrastructure, and it was really, really a complicated job for us to fix. And the consensus was from Danny from Woodman Hills Metro District, hey, I didn't work here, I didn't inspect this is a mess, and you gotta get it fixed. And and to go back and directly answer your question, when they're pulling that earth out there, everybody's standing there looking for some type of revelation of what's going on. But there was the general feeling that real close to the main, a pipe had collapsed, and then everyone is, how, why, that type of thing.
Did you get a full assessment on why it was damaged?
Pardon me?
Why it's
No,
damaged or what caused the
and
damage?
there was, after we had left, there was a lot of work done by the gas company, and after us to get underground there and tap into an extension for gas for someplace down the road. And then in our discussion, there has been a lot of problems, or a lot of talk of problems in the development, and then everyone's trying to figure out why it collapsed or how it collapsed, but there wasn't any consensus of why it collapsed. There was some growling, I'll use that word, over paved the road and the compacting of the road and the shallow asphalt. So you know, when there's 20 people standing around looking at a problem, there's just a lot of thinking out loud and a lot of speculation. But it was a very complex fix, and it was a big pain in the neck.
And Danny was, I don't know, multiple times signing off and just.
And he's the one that
Work
really,
in progress.
yeah, basically he
was very
re-engineered,
thorough.
yeah, he really basically re-engineered what he wanted.
And
Those-
watched each piece, each part of the method go through.
So I found the email in question in the response from Cody, and I'm gonna forward this to you right now. It says it was forwarded, but nonetheless,
I show the same thing.
I'll send it again. These are the correct email addresses
Yes.
on there? Okay. So the response was simply, JC Excavations, the current, is that the current company, JCS?
And J.C. Jones, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Connected to the existing sewer laterals. It was not done until 10/2/20. 16 years of construction and work occurred at that time frame. The original contractor, who they don't know, only had a 2-year warranty on their work, at which time the district took ownership of the public main, and the property owners took ownership of the sewer service line. And up above that, he goes into a full nomenclature description. And it also has the excerpt from our spec book, repair and replacement of existing service lines. And then it has the one picture of the vault walls with the ladder down in there that you guys have provided. It says the following picture clearly shows the public sewer main is still covered in dirt, and only the 2 service lines to the 2 properties are exposed and had work done to them.
Those are the laterals.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's that photo.
And we think that, we don't know, when you're trying to be preventative about things, we think there's other problems brewing there, and we never got this gentleman out to have a comprehensive meeting that we were gonna invite Woodman Hills to, and say, okay, listen, this is a development that was put together in a pretty, calico cat patchwork type way, and we think there's other problems there.
Do you have a list of those suspect areas and those suspected issues?
What I would tell you, that, I don't have a list of them, but I would tell you that, that's why I asked, I thought that name was Cody, but, if the Cody's the new inspector, area inspector, and he want a comprehensive view over what's going on there, I'd be more than willing to bring my project manager back out, Bruce Benhagen, and go through and give somebody a virtual of what we've experienced out there and the problems that we feel someday are gonna be there with this under drain system and the water and all that, or the water table and that.
As I understand it, the under drain system would actually fall into Wally's department?
It would actually fall under the county, but
It'd
Yeah,
be
county.
counted, because we don't own the under drain.
Okay.
Well, the reason that we wanted Woodman Hills there was because at some point, some entity's gonna have a problem, and then we believe the clean out for the under drain system, the best that we can tell, is buried 4 feet below pavement. And if you look at the photos that we sent you, I don't think that anybody thinks that that's a great body of work that was done in that cul-de-sac by a general contractor. So if, this other problem that we have, that we think is there, and we know it's there, if somebody just starts digging out there, whether it's the county or another contractor, it's gonna domino into your world.
Be aware of there's a 2-year statute of limitations, and there's a 6-year statute of repose. 2 years from knew or should have known of the problem, and 6 years is an absolute bar. So if you sit on your rights, you may lose them.
Well, I'm not so much worried about that, that'd be more your area. I'm only worried about that subdivision over there converted from a rental subdivision to a home ownership subdivision. And now with the government getting involved and giving veterans loans, there's a lot of veterans over there that have bought homes, okay? And we've had some tremendous anomalies under that development. And one of the things that we look at and say, okay, we're all done. This is what we did when we encountered these problems, and we know these problems are gonna come back, and these problems are gonna be real. And I don't think that anybody that lives over there knows what we now know, that those laterals belong to the homeowner. And that infrastructure, nobody knows what they have in infrastructure, so they start tearing it up. And I don't think anybody over there that owns a $300,000 home, that's 100% leveraged, has got the reserves to fix laterals or something that goes wrong, and we think there's a lot of potential things like that.
I mean, we're also talking about, so, we all know the problems come with age in houses and
And infrastructure.
And people.
And what we have seen out here with the building uphill from Whitman Hills is the gradual runoff increase when it does storm, rain, things like that.
That's
You know.
part of what we're alluding
So,
to.
I think we're all aware of that. The county is aware of it. I mean, they've required the King Supers lot alone to do, I don't know, $4 million extra worth of groundwater, retention ponds, everything else over there. So, for everything from our gallery across the street over there, everything's changed in the last
Well, we're
20,
willing to
30
meet
years.
with Cody to get ahead of this, and if that means consulting the county, we're willing to do that as well, but just,
And
Well,
that's,
it could be
that's
helpful.
something you can set up with JD and those folks up there about getting Cody out there to look at that. And look at those under drains, and I would probably hazard a guess that would probably be a Falcon-wide problem at this point out here, as old as the area's getting out here, as far as the older houses and the build-up to the north of us. So, it may be something that may be worth pushing a button with the county and talking to them about, but I'm pretty sure that it's probably already on their radar. But as far as if you can find something that contradicts the inspection and the specs for the, as far as this lateral line, and I guess their collapses, right? The line's collapsed over a 16-year period. Nobody knows when.
And we don't know when, and we really, as you can see, when that was opened up, there's 10 pounds of tomatoes in a 5-pound bag there. And so it was anybody's guess.
We're very fair, so like I said, it can be brought back to the forefront or through an email or stuff. I would be hesitant of engaging attorneys between one another at this point, because everybody's just gonna build up a large bill.
we saw you sign things. You weren't really happy.
One of our unfinished jobs.
Yeah,
Right.
but,
Somebody's gotta do it.
more than happy to continue the discussion on it, but I would hazard to keep the attorneys out of it as long as we possibly can, not for anybody's benefit or detriment here, but just to save both entities money.
We appreciate the dialogue and the time you allow us to have this evening.
And I did, while we were talking, forward that to you again, both of you again, so.
Okay.
And JD has your contact information, I just forwarded that to him, so he can reach out
Thank all of
to
you
Cody.
very much for hearing us.
Cody works for JD, so.
Here's a number that has an answering service that works.
Fantastic.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks to all of you.
Thank
for
you
hearing
guys.
us.
Did you have any budget questions?
Happy holidays.
Thanks.
Happy holidays.
Holidays, take care. All right,
That was unexpected, but pleasant, all in one,
yeah,
all in one, it was good to have that discussion, I like it.
absolutely.
So back to the budget.
I'll have them get with you, if they find something that contradicts the specs or anything, let us know. But those specs are there, they go by whatever the county then requires, so if there was something that had to be changed after 16 years, I'm sure there was probably something that had to be changed after something said 16 years.
Yeah, if there's anything that Cody needs to actually look at based on underdrain or those issues for future reference for us, maybe
Yeah.
take a look at it, take notes, dig into it, and make sure it doesn't impact Woodland Hills. So,
Well,
which,
the under drains might be an issue because we already made one repair over off of Oakmont because the water's just started coming up people's, south arms.
interesting.
And there's nowhere in that I could find that we can pinpoint the under drains to an entity like the county, for example. So since we made a couple repairs, it seems like that Woodland Hills is being proactive, trying to alleviate some problems, but it causes other problems in the alleviation because, you know, the ownership of it. When you alleviate a problem, you create another problem. This other problem is we expose that water to an open well. And that counts against us. That's why we had put that Falcon Vista down in there, just so you're aware of this. And anytime we keep exposing more and more of this infrastructure, you know, then they become problems, it becomes problems for us, everybody pays. So I just wanna bear that in mind.
And are we still engaged in conversation with the county on the stormwater runs out here?
I gotta find out who I gotta talk to, if that's, I can pick
About
that
cleaning
conversation
them up,
up.
they're all full of silt, sand, everything else, so they're not draining right.
Some of, well, here's some problems. I've been looking into this also, and Wally and I had talked about the budget line item for the under drains. Well, it's more than just under drains, it's ditch cleaning. Well, unfortunately, we own some of these drainage areas, and we're supposed to maintain them.
I know about that piece.
And I found that documentation. So we talked about, okay, we got X amount of dollars, what we do, get 3 summer hires, maximize the amount of money that we can to pay for it, and get 1,055 hours out of them, out of 3 people. And so that's what I propose, just so we can start getting them cleaned up and start getting to where we get to them where they're maintainable instead of, oh my God, we gotta do something now.
A review on the budget lines, which they'll get finalized here rather quickly. And then we'll have all our line items actually closed for books for the end of the year, so here's for the meeting, and we can attack how much is there to work with, and then come up with a plan, I believe. So, but, you know, your plan, whatever you come up with.
I think the dollar figure was cheaper and is cheaper on that line item by hiring a temp agency work to go out and help with one of our guys, or with one of our people. I think with the cost of hiring staff people to do that, plus you're gonna burn them out. The temp agency thing for that portion, for that kind of labor is pretty vast, and you get, if you burn one out, you call back down there and get another one for that kind of work. If we hire somebody and go through all the work of training them, hiring them, bringing them in, and then they go away, we've just wasted a lot of money.
That's probably good use for a new Mack truck, right?
Doesn't work for that. That's we're talking about backhoes,
Good try.
rear barrels, and shovels, and rakes.
We can continue that discussion on that, but my understanding is you guys already gave the maintenance book over to Jed.
Okay, so I was trying to figure, okay, let's see here, I'm trying to bridge, because Jed was involved with this.
Trying to figure out how I knew about it.
Yes,
Amazing how that works, isn't it?
well, at least somebody knows, but you know that was being proactive about it.
He was very much proactive about it and
Well, I mean, I.
is ready to go whenever the board says, hey, go ahead with temp or hiring new people. But I think the salary cost and the actual, once it's done, what do you do with those employees?
We didn't have a plan for them. Unless there was any of them really good that, you know, were.
Well, I mean, I would love for us to be able to go out and hire 3-4 more guys and just keep them on year round, but unfortunately, that's not
Right,
how it works, and that's not what's in the budget, so.
no, I agree. Cause I was when I found the book and then talked to Wally about it, and then Wally and I and Jed sat down and talked about it, and they said, well, here you the book then, if you wanna take it over.
I'm sure you guys will make a responsible decision within the confines of the budget. All right, any budget question, concern?
There was some homeowner concerns.
Short and sweet question.
One moment.
I think the only thing I had a question on
That
my end
scared me to
was,
death.
No, I forgot you were on the phone.
You just made everybody jump.
sorry about that.
There's a voice under the desk.
I did the same thing because your phone sat in front of me last time when Sherry was on the phone.
Go ahead, Stacy.
So, the vac truck, we are looking at putting a deposit on it in 2021. We're gonna put a deposit on it in 2021. And then we're going to pay for it out of operating funds in full in the 2022 budget.
That's correct.
As a key.
That's where I moved it.
Yep.
So the entire price of it, which I also put in, is,
Man, I thought you were gonna say we couldn't afford it because it's already here. We already have it.
Yeah.
Wally's gonna take a
Sitting in the shop.
selfies?
He's pretty proud of it.
He's pretty proud of that truck, so,
Oh, I bet.
yeah. I told him he was thinking about doing a calendar for Woodman Hills with the truck in the
Oh,
background.
gosh. So.
We told him it was his new take-home truck and he's gotta pay for the gas.
6 miles a gallon at $5 a gallon.
There you go.
That's pretty efficient. I have it currently sitting under lease expense, it's not a lease. But I have the entire, dollar amount in there. The top one. I'm assuming we got the truck with the recycler.
I'm getting a head shake from JD.
So there were two different trucks.
JD nods yes.
Yes, you're correct.
Got it.
Yep.
Okay. So I have that dollar amount in there, and so that was the only thing really updated between last month, when it was posted, and this month, because it's no longer a lease. We actually will own it. And then Kim did send me some for the budget book. She did send me some personnel, movement around.
Kim's awesome.
And she did catch my typo of submitting a 2020 budget when it should be a 2022 budget. I'm not quite sure what I was doing.
Kim's sitting here, she's nodding yes. She knows.
I'm just sitting here, Stacy, I'm just sitting here.
Yeah,
She's
so Kim helped me out with that, and other than that, I haven't changed, anything. I haven't gotten any feedback. I haven't gotten any emails saying, hey, I have some questions about this. So, that's all I have.
Stacy, it's Carter. I do have a question for you. So in the budget that you put together, The sinking fund redemption for the bonds, it goes into, the new amount goes into effect on 1 December. And the amount that you have in there doesn't match this fee schedule.
That's interesting. It's a good catch.
To the positive or negative?
Negative. We would be underpaying the bond.
So,
We can do that.
I didn't have any of the documentation for the bonds.
We didn't receive those, and that was actually not provided by prior regime, so we'll have to actually reevaluate that.
Yeah, so I don't have any of that. I know that Sydney tried her best to try and find it for me. But I didn't have any of that information, so I took last year's numbers for that. And Dave, I know, was going to, get back to me with those numbers. And then, of course,
Actually, you know what,
I have been out.
that should be an issue. You need to take a look at the amortization schedule on that bond.
It shouldn't change until
2022?
Well, it was simple, it's just making sure that we have the revenue coming in that meets 125% bond up and lease obligations.
So this year, we didn't raise, I mean, and the state sent out on that and brought the thought to the board, we're meeting our bond obligations, there's no sense in going in excess and charging the homeowners for that particular fee.
We've also, as far as capital improvements moving forward, we are, as of right now, this year, we are a little bit caught up somewhat on infrastructure, updating, maintenance improvements, less the capital improvements that are in the budget for next year. So we are, I think, I don't know, we might be running lean, you never know, I mean, it could be, we could be wrong in some area and it pop up that we gotta do an amended budget mid-year if we run into some serious problems or some big change comes in. So to answer their question, we just tightened the belt of the district up a little bit. Got rid of some overhead. And are hoping that we can go through 2022 a little bit leaner than the last few years. And if you're watching this video, when Reg 41 hits, that will all come back around. So we talk about it a lot with an RO plant, expansion of the wastewater plant and things. We are able to keep the rates low right now, being fee-based, but I'm sure that word's already on the street that Meridian has a drastic increase to their wastewater. Cherokee's also went up quite a bit, as well as a lot of them across the state that have had to make massive improvements to their infrastructure in the last year and a half, so.
I believe Paintbrush got hit with that same deal too.
Yeah, so, our time will come where we have to navigate refinancing our bonds, refinancing our debt, taking on more debt to pay for, an addition on the wastewater treatment facility to be able to accommodate EPA and state regulations. There's no getting around that, you know, it should be no secret to anybody out there right now that, we can't avoid it. It's gonna happen eventually, we're just hoping, we're been playing kind of the long game, setting capital money from this year towards next year, staying underneath our Tabor exception requirements and making sure that we can ease the blow when the time comes.
Well, and the other side of that is that we've got reorganization happening in the district as well, so operationally, I think things are gonna get fine-tuned to where we can control a lot of those expenditures coming in from admin in each department, both Park and Rec and water and wastewater, so we've got the room to not have to do an increase per se this year, and there's other toys, so. Okay, anything else? Another question?
Nothing.
What are the reasons for not increasing tap fees?
we just did a tap fee increase last year. It brought us up to,
Current standards.
We're still
Still evaluating that.
been evaluating it, and we're still pretty low compared to everybody else. The idea is to stay competitive with everyone on tap fees, but, realistically, right now, I mean, as far as inclusion agreements and people wanting to include in the district and things, we're under no emergent requirement to up our tap fees right now. We don't have any major construction projects or developers coming in. You got, what, Falcon, what's the new one over, I can't even remember everything. Falcon, everything's Falcon Vista.
They got Falcon Market, and then you have Bent Grass filings 1 through 4, and then the renamed Falcon parcel,
And
which
then
is
the new
phase
one over
1.
across off of Woodman and 24 there.
Falcon Fields.
Yeah, Falcon Fields, that's the one. So most of those agreements though are already done, so those tap fees are already designated, so we won't be able to impact any of that. So future-wise, we have time here, but it doesn't need to be done this year. It'll happen. I mean, they'll eventually have to increase to be at a level with everybody else around us.
Competitive as well. All right, and last question, as a result of the prior two decisions, will the staff of Woodland Hills not be receiving merit increases in 2022?
So I can speak a little bit to that.
I'll let you take that one.
So merit increases in prior, let's say, prior employment, everything was done on a merit increase, and through some discussions with the board and how some of those things operated, that was actually based at a 3% fee increase. And we were told that it was actually called an inflationary cost increase. And not everybody got that increase in the district. That's part of problem one, because it violates some rules and new laws that are in place this year. The second thing is that we're moving away and encouraging the district managers in the admin office to come up with a totally different structure as far as merit's concerned. I come from
Performance.
yeah, so as far as merit's concerned, that we don't do a merit system. It's actually based on performance. So, and that's something that I've had long discussions with several of the managers about, as well as Carter, probably as frequent as early as today, right? And the reason for it is because I'm a firm believer that you reward the people that work the hardest, you know, and you balance that out inside of a budget, because we are a government entity. So it's not a free-for-all where you take the homeowner's money and say, hey, you know, let's give everybody $1 million bonus and we'll just charge the homeowners for it. You know, it just doesn't work that way.
It might have sounded like a naive question, but I just want to make sure that our specialty guys got taken care of
Oh,
as far
absolutely.
as,
Yeah.
you know.
You know, so we're looking at a performance-based structure that has to do with employee reviews, management reviews, really taking advantage of a system that rewards people that work the hardest for the company.
Agreed.
You know?
So you're saying from past history that wasn't necessarily the case, that it was like an increase across the board, or some did and some didn't?
Well, the merit increases, whoever was in charge of the department would basically do the merit increase for their employees, so, and we're all well aware that not every employee we have is a 3. You know, you got your 2 graded, you know, but the whole idea with at least in my opinion, of the merit increase was to be able to, not only are you promoting people to work hard to get that maximum merit increase, but you're also, when somebody just coming up sees somebody else, hey, they got a pretty good bump this year for doing good work, it gives them an incentive to do better next year, if they're graded on a scale.
And again, it might be a
These
little
guys
naive.
get-
I'm not privy to what you all.
No, our
know.
specialty guys, theirs is not a merit increase,
Good question.
that's a performance bonus.
And that's probably a bad word.
And that's, that's paying them back for getting a certification to make them better, make us better as a
Exactly.
whole.
And again, that's my concern was those guys.
No, those don't go away, those are still in place as far as these
Yeah, that
guys.
program's still in place.
And,
for
you know, if they get the upper certifications and things, they're still going to get that bonus to pay back for getting that. So it makes us better, it makes us have one of the top rated water and wastewater.
We'll make sure we
crews.
keep it that way.
Yeah, that's not going anywhere, so
No,
I
the
guess
full
we should
essential
explain
after-
that,
yeah.
we should explain that.
Yeah, and the reason, and merit's the right word, and it was used in this email, and the reason for it is because that's what it was called prior. We wanna change that from merit to performance, moving forward. And the reason why is because you have to determine what the merit is, right? Versus performance is pretty clear. You know,
Absolutely.
we either perform, we don't perform, we have rankings, and the managers have meetings with those employees, and people understand in the district, this is where I stand, this is what I did right, this is what I did wrong, and I can choose to correct it or not. You know, following that process. You know, but likewise, then it's no clue, or how do you put it, it's no mystery, if I don't get a raise, if I perform poorly, you know? The other side is that, you know, documentation for, some of our HR and going through and moving forward in a program to where, conversations are had with employees, not only when they do poorly, but when they do well. You know, that should be noted in the record as well, so. But yeah, that's the whole program, but the other side of that is that, you know, the technical, merit, or technical proficiency increases will still apply to those that are getting their certificates and their additional education, so that was a system that we all agreed on that shouldn't be taken away.
Fair enough, again, I can't stress it enough.
It's just to put a
that Our
system-
specialty
No.
guys, you know.
This is just to put a system in place to benefit you all. We all will eventually not be up here, there'll be other people on the board, but it's to benefit you guys going forward as to, here's some performance standards, this is what's expected of new employees, this is the expectation. It's to put things in place to make things better. We've worked so hard, drilling down. Our budget's been centered around infrastructure improvements the last 5 years, 4 years. The rec center, the new building, all that stuff. So this is, the community is fortunate to have we're the old guard off of the last election. The new folks that got elected this time around have really taken, the HR, the personnel, a lot of the stuff that, you know, you only get 4 years, and it goes by in the blink of an eye up here. And if you run again, you get 8 years. But you don't know how any of this, your decisions work until it's like being president of the United States. 10, 12 years after you're gone, you get to see whether you screwed everything up or whether you made it better. You hope that you made it better. You do everything you can to make it better. But these folks that came on and got elected this time around have really taken a lead on this as far as the personnel, the HR, the things that we needed to get to. That's, you know, the bylaws, the
Broken computers.
yeah, the computer stuff, you know, the stuff that gets forgotten about a lot of times when you're dealing with a large government operation like this. And so, for them to come in and take the reins and want to take that on, it's truly been impressive watching, the three of them operate with you guys in the district and stuff, because I've been kind of behind the scenes here I just get busy with other stuff and things get. Budget, it's your hearing, it's your guys' budget.
Budget questions from you?
No, I just wanted to see if we get this one contract from Five Star Automation.
Okay.
We can go forward with that. I dealt with the problem next door and I got enlisted their help.
I think we're already teed up for that, so I just qualify that with Carter and double check on the,
Okay.
yeah, the execution date. I think Stacy said that we've got funds set.
The funds are in the budget,
Yeah.
so.
So we could, you know, they're doing preliminary right now, they're supposed to be able to execute starting January 1, and January 1, it's in the budget. So, we've already given them a commitment letter, correct? In fact, I think I signed it.
It's split in the budget as a capital improvement project.
Okay. The voice from Blackie on.
It's split 65-35 between, water and wastewater.
Yeah, so the system's actually 65-35 split between water and wastewater, as, I think you already had that discussion with Stacy, and Wally did as well.
And I negotiated, they were easy to deal with, I negotiated a variety of changes in their contract.
So the contract's good to go. If we can sign off on the contract, that would be, well, who would sign that contract?
When is it ready?
Well,
I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it, I asked the
I
same
can be
question
in there
about
Friday.
it.
All
Okay.
right, we good, we fixed? All right. Where was we?
You know, as far as the contract, you need to go ahead and take a look at that, move forward the funds. We should be able to allocate those by January 1 to execute that contract, so, we just need to pull the reserves for it and get it done. So verify the contract, make sure it's in place, and then we gotta get it to Troy and sign off on it and tell them come out and fix. So we don't have to pull out our own budget. They're not gonna have the equipment in until when?
I don't know, until we
Put the order in.
put the order in and see whether availability of equipment and.
Yeah, because last
timelines.
time we had a conversation, we talked about it with IT and them, you know, and their hint was is that it would take them some time to gather gear. And we've already given them a commitment, haven't we?
Was what was that first, signage of the contract that Troy did, and then we had to have it revamped.
Yeah, they're revamping on it, but they should have started ordering parts, pieces, and everything else at that time. I don't know why they wouldn't. So I was in
Is
the
that the
impression.
one that I got Troy to sign that one Friday and then I gave to you?
No, that's for Real Cycle Life, for
Oh, that's
applied
right.
engineering.
Sorry, there's like
Yeah.
1,000 of these things going on.
So I would just say, I would verify that they're ordering everything and getting it in place, because it was gonna take them more than 30 days to get everything anyway. They were talking 60 to 90 days to get some of it. So, you know, with a project of that scale going out and looking at a 6 to 8 month or 9 month build, you know, we've already committed, so, you know, I just say, you know.
And if
ask
the
them.
contract comes in before Friday, just scan it and email it to me, I'll sign it, and send it back, bring a white copy into the office Friday.
Okay.
Cool. So I think the other we need to do is just close that budget with the addendum changes that we noted earlier, based on the discussion with Carter. I think we're good to go.
Is that a motion to accept the budget?
I motion to accept the budget with the addendum, the amendments that we need to apply to it. I don't know what the hell I'm saying, I'm tired. It's been a long month.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion on it? All right, got a motion by Neil and a second by John to accept the 2022 budget with the addendums or the minor changes there noted in the meeting here, so. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried, the budget is accepted
Okay.
for 2022.
Move into executive session.
Okay, I'll motion we move into executive session for matters pertaining to personnel matters, i.e. contracts, personnel contracts, and negotiations pertaining to Paintbrush Hills.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, we're now in executive session. All right, we're now back in public session. Can I get a motion for adjournment?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
There's your motion to adjourn.
I second that motion.
And a second by Neil. Any other discussion?
Yes, when is our next meeting?
That's a good question.
Never.
How's your leg?
It will be January, will be the next regular meeting.
All right, I'll see you guys next year.
Okay, heal up, feel better.
All in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
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 All right, we are adjourned.